All right. And we are a couple minutes after the hour. Good afternoon, good morning, good day. Hope everybody is having a great Thursday. I've had to remind myself a few times that today is Thursday and not Friday yet. So I hope everybody is staying warm and dry. Thanks for joining us for our part 2 financial assistance conversation. My name is Allison Weibel. I am here with a couple of my colleagues to go through these options with you. And thanks, Leonard. We've got Leonard, who is driving and will be doing most of the discussion today, along with Jamie, and obviously myself, helping out with the question and answer and getting us going. So our agenda, we're going to do some introductions, which we've done, and housekeeping here in a minute. Today we'll be talking about cold. Oh, you good, Leonard?
I'm good.
We have some exciting news. A pilot that is already going. The cold weather financial assistance, which we'll be giving an overview on in case you have missed that. We'll also be talking about our financial assistance types and our financial assistant payment options. I know we've gone over these a few times. We like to do it at least once a year, if not more, just good reminders for everybody. We have some resources related to these payment options, and then we'll go through user support channels and open it up for questions. We are here on our Microsoft Team meeting, and it is recording, and we will post it. So hopefully avoiding most of those questions. We are recording this session. We will post this in our Client Care Programs office hours recording on YouTube, and we do send this out via email as well, with a thank you for joining. So you should get this a couple of different ways. We are scheduled for 90 minutes, and we will be here for 90 minutes so that we can answer most and hopefully all of the questions that you have. Attendees, you can auto-enable your I always say auto-enable. You can enable your auto captioning in your team settings. All of your lines are muted. You are in a listen-only mode, and I believe your reactions should also be turned off because we will be using the Q&A feature. On the top part of your bar in Teams, you should see 2 little bubbles with a question mark. We will take questions there. So as you have them, please go ahead and put them there with your name so we know who we're talking to. If you want to put your region, that'd be great too. For some reason in the past, we know that some folks just don't have that Q&A feature. So at the end, we will be sharing the Mentimeter code and the QR code that you can use as well as an alternate for asking your questions. Since we don't have that right now, when you do have a question, please go ahead and write that down so you don't forget it. We've already talked about your name and your region, so it feels like we're having a conversation, and I have already mentioned, but it is worth mentioning again, we are recording. The meeting will be posted to our YouTube playlist, and you also should receive an email copy of the slides and the recording. All right, I'm going to toss it to Leonard now.
Great. Thanks, Allison, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for hopping on part 2 of the highly touted, widely publicized part 2 of financial assistance. And I know last time we convened, we talked about the need to do a 2-part series. So we're really, really excited to offer part 2 of financial assistance and talk about all the things that Allison said we were going to talk about. Before we jump into the financial assistance types, we did want to review the cold weather financial assistance pilot. And as we look over the past few years, we've heard a desire from our senior leadership to invest more in our mission, to really think about ways to provide more assistance to clients. And I think over the past few years, you've seen examples of that, where we've adjusted our steady state price guide a little bit. We've tweaked our price guide. We've also offered some new and robust services for relief operations. If we think about the Family Travel and Assistance program and helping out with fatalities on DROs, we were really, really excited to hear about a cold weather financial assistance pilot as a mid-year investment from senior leadership. And so we are in the throes of cold weather, and I think everybody's involved with cold weather at this point. But if chances are, if you're hearing my voice, unless you're on an island somewhere, you're experiencing the cold weather. So I think this launched at the appropriate time of the season for us to really test out this pilot and think about ways to invest more in mission, which ultimately means helping clients with a little more. So we'll jump into the purpose and intent. So basically, again, this is just a mid-year investment for us to think about how do we provide a little more financial assistance for those that are involved in these extreme cold weather events. And so there's and we know that while some parts of the country are really used to cold weather on a regular basis, we know that cold weather affects different parts of the country a little differently. And when we get down below and at freezing in some parts of the country, that's a big shift from the normal day to day. But we also know that these extreme cold temperatures in areas that are used to cold climates, even this season seems just a tad bit colder. So really thinking about ways to provide a little more assistance to help clients meet these additional needs because of the extreme cold temperatures. And so not to bury the headline here, but basically for clients who are eligible for financial assistance, really thinking about ways to help them out, providing an extra $100 per household to help clients offset some of those cold related challenges and needs that arise due to a disaster. So that's about the extent of it. We're going to talk about eligibility criteria and all of that. But the bottom line is for those that qualify for immediate financial assistance, and if they're in the certain type of a forecast of cold weather, then they're offered an extra $100 again to help offset some of those cold weather related needs and challenges. So here's a snapshot of the map and the tool that we are using as the forecast tool. And last week, when we took a snapshot, you can see the overwhelming majority of the country and our clients would have been eligible for this type of assistance. And so, you know, we're trying to be able to provide equitable service delivery. We're trying to think about an opportunity that will provide assistance to a large group of clients. And if you look at this map, you can clearly see that those conditions do apply. So just a quick little snapshot. This changes day to day based on the forecast, and this is the graphic that illustrates some of the eligibility criteria and some of the forecasting models and tools that we're using in order to determine eligibility. But I just thought this was an interesting graphic from the other day when we were all experiencing cold weather again throughout most of the lower 48. So here's a little bit about the eligibility criteria. It's for level 1 and level 2 events right now. That's the scope of the pilot. And basically, if a client, if a household, if a case qualifies for immediate financial assistance, then they will be eligible to receive this additional cold weather assistance if there are some forecasting criteria that they meet as well. And you can see there that for the forecast for the 3 days following the incident, with at least one day with a projected temperature below 35 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 3 consecutive hours between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. local time. Fortunately, we have a tool that helps us with that. So nobody has to do the math magicals and try to determine which clients are eligible and which ones aren't based on this. The NHQ Ops section developed a forecasting tool and model based on the map that we saw. And what we do is we take that information and bump it up against all the cases that were opened. And then that determines the eligibility for the extra $100. But the nice thing is that there is some subjectivity that accompanies the eligibility criteria. So if for some reason a county happens to be surrounded by all of these eligible counties, but for some reason the forecast model doesn't hold true for that particular county at that particular time, we've got the ability to apply some common sense and good judgment and be able to offer assistance as well. And the NHQ client care team is doing a good job with that. So that's a little bit about the eligibility criteria. Again, qualify for immediate financial assistance, basically damage based, be in one of these eligible areas based on the forecast and the climate, the based on the forecast, because I can't say climatology or whatever that word is. And then the clients will be eligible for that. And again, it's $100 per household. The nice thing, the elegance around this for the field, for the divisions and the regions, is that this is all being done behind the scenes. And the regions and the divisions don't have to determine eligibility. They don't have to do all of the forecast models and take a look at all of that information. The NHQ Client Care Programs team is doing that behind the scenes. And the NHQ Client Care Programs team is also providing those manual payments on those cases. And so we also didn't want to burden the field with having to determine eligibility and not know what to tell clients based on the forecast models and all of that. And so we just did that in-house behind the scenes, and we're providing that communication to the eligible clients to let them know that, hey, it looks like you're based on the cold weather, you're eligible for this assistance. So, stay tuned and be aware that you're going to provide this assistance. And so you can see here some of the process pieces is that these manual payments are conducted, during the business week, which makes Mondays just a little busier, just thinking about processing all of those payments for the weekend. And hopefully the team's doing a really good job with looking at the previous day's eligible cases and providing that assistance almost the very next day for the most part for the cases that were opened that are eligible to receive the financial assistance. I'm going to stop here. Jamie and her team have been doing just a Herculean effort to provide these. Jamie, are there any headlines that you want to talk about here? Or Ariane?
Yeah, thanks, Leonard. So first off, and hey, let me move there we go, thing to where I'm going to be talking. Yeah, we started on Monday, and Monday, because it is so cold everywhere and because it was capturing all the cases from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there's a lot of cases. And it was the first day we've ever done this. So it was a little bit bumpy. There was a longer delay in receiving the messages, and some of the filters on some of the messaging were a little bit skewed, but we've worked really hard on Monday. One, we got all of the payments from that weekend out on Monday, which was amazing. I didn't even think that was humanly possible. And then two, we did a lot of adjustments so that by Tuesday we were corrected and we were doing things better. So we, as Leonard said, and you can see the message on the screen in front of you, we started timing the messages closer to when the payments would be sent. We fixed all of our filters, and now that dashboard is live. And we also provided some talking points for the regions in case a client should call in and say, hey, I received this text message, where are my funds? So hopefully, we kind of smoothed out anything from Monday, and, we've done, we're doing the payments right now. I've actually got a message queued up, ready to send on my screen that's just above the one where I'm talking. So we have another 300 and some to go out today. So we're excited to be doing this. It is a lot of work behind the scenes, but the team is doing a great job, and really appreciate all the feedback from the field that came on Monday and that's been coming since. It really is helping us get this program to be where we want it to be. And it's been really great to get these funds into the hands of the clients and reading. I get all the text messages that are replies, and the clients have been so far really loving it, which who wouldn't love hey, here's some extra money. So it's been a good couple of days. So thanks, Leonard.
Great. Thanks, Jamie. So how do the regions know when this assistance is provided? And fortunately, not only has the NHQ Client Care Programs team put out talking points, I think we published a couple of knowledge articles around this as well, but we also developed a dashboard. So regions will be able to go in and see what the what the cases are that received the financial assistance, the additional cold weather financial assistance, but you can also see at an aggregate level of kind of where we're at with the pilot. So I think we budgeted a little over $1 million for this winter for this pilot, and expected to run this through early May, or use the funds, use the $1 million budget line for the funding, and the pilot will end whichever comes first. And we believe at the pace that we're running now with this extreme cold weather that we're experiencing, we're probably going to get to the budget limit fairly soon. And then, we could look forward to see what senior leadership does with this, not only in future years, but really thinking about this as a pilot and looking at it to see if there's opportunities for more funding. It's not a promise, but hopefully they'll take a look at future opportunities as well. So that's really it about cold weather financial assistance. But we're really excited to see this pilot. And it was nice that the new client care programs team was able to kind of turn on a dime to be able to activate this and provide it. And then if this is something that senior leadership has an appetite for moving forward, the NHQ team can work on really solidifying the systems and the programmatic guidance and all of that around that. Because for those of you who have been around for a little bit of time, if you remember, we used to provide seasonal clothing during the winter time as a line item as part of the price guide. So not that we're going back to that, but this is another indication of senior leadership's dedication to invest more in mission. So excited. Stay tuned for more information. Keep an eye on those dashboards, and feel free to let us know if you have any questions. All right. So last time we met, we talked about around financial assistance. We talked about compliance, we talked about eligibility and confirmations, but really didn't dig into the financial assistance types, and really dig into why we provide the financial assistance that we provide. I think there's a lot of information about what it is. I think there's a lot of information about how to do it. But we haven't really spent a lot of time with the rationale as to why we're providing this assistance. And basically, in some regards, it's almost a check mark of the client meets these eligibility criteria, therefore they get this assistance. But really wanted to dig in and spend a little bit of time as to why we provide the assistance and what it means for the client. So we're just going to run through the different types of financial assistance types. For some of you, you have lots of familiarity with this topic, but others might be new or might not have been exposed to the why behind the assistance type. So this is all in alignment with the published price guides or price guide that's on OneSource. So you can reference that. There's a few other client care reference materials as well around financial assistance. Starting with immediate assistance, immediate financial assistance. It's really designed to provide what it is, immediate assistance, basically to help stabilize a client after, whether that's moments or days after a disaster, to help stabilize a client, to provide financial assistance for food, clothing, shelter, transportation, communication, whatever the client needs at the immediate onset of a disaster. And it helps stabilize them. It helps give them some financial assistance when community resources are not available, when they can't access their personal resources at that particular time. Immediate financial assistance helps with those basic needs, but then also helps stabilize the client. It gives them a little bit of time, a day or two, to kind of help start thinking about this, to help start walking through the recovery journey. And so that's kind of why it's provided. Again, you can see the criteria there. The criteria is fairly basic, and as we talked about last month, there's just a few elements of the eligibility for financial assistance. One is, were you involved in a disaster event, a confirmed disaster event? Are you who you say you are? And did you live where you say you lived that was impacted by a disaster? So eligibility criteria, while the confirmations are very important, the eligibility criteria is rather low. So we want to be able to help provide that assistance very quickly. And so those are the eligibility types, but it's provided for damage classifications for major, destroyed, and uninhabitable. And you can see there the different household tiers. So based on the composition of the household, the assistance that we're able to provide. So that's kind of an overview of immediate assistance. But again, as you think about immediate assistance, it's really to help stabilize the client immediately after a disaster. And again, that could be within hours after the event on the curb and standing in front of a house. It could be a few days later, or in large scale events, it could be a few weeks. So it's not really relevant to time. It's really relevant to the size, scale, and scope of the disaster and when we're able to provide that assistance. Right. So after immediate assistance, if a client opts in to recovery planning and they need more support from a caseworker who will help them with their recovery planning and their recovery journey, and they still want to accept financial assistance, and they have lingering recovery roadblocks, things like childcare, job-related needs, transportation, housing, things like that. If they still have some of those lingering recovery roadblocks and they need a little help overcoming, and there are no personal or community resources available, we can help with supplemental assistance. And this is supplemental to immediate assistance. So providing a little more assistance to help a client navigate their recovery roadblocks. But there's some there's some responsibility on a client with supplemental assistance. It's not an automatic. A client needs to be engaged with a caseworker. A client needs to be active in their own recovery. They need to be taking steps towards their recovery in concert with the caseworker, who can provide a little bit of extra financial assistance to help them overcome a recovery roadblock. But this is not an automatic offering, right? We really want to see the co-creation of a recovery plan and recovery thoughts. And is a client really moving through their steps in recovery? And is the caseworker also making sure that we've exhausted community resources? So again, the supplemental assistance isn't an automatic offering. So just want to make sure that as we move forward, we start thinking about this in a more metered fashion, where there's comprehensive documentation, there's rationale for providing it. But you can see there the different types of tiers, where tier A and B, basically, if a client expresses a recovery roadblock, and there are no community or personal resources to help overcome that roadblock, then yeah, we can provide supplemental assistance. Hopefully along the way, there's really accurate and detailed documentation and RC care. But then if a client has two recovery roadblocks and they have a contributing client factor, meaning that the household has a member that's 6 or under, has a household member that's 65 or over, or is a single parent household, if it meets one of those three conditions and there's two recovery roadblocks, then we can offer the highest tier of supplemental assistance. And again, this is designed to help alleviate and address some of those lingering recovery needs that clients experience after a disaster. So that's kind of why we provide supplemental. Along the way, what you're going to find with our financial assistance is that we want to have the client maintain agency and dignity, right? We're not going to be too prescriptive about offering financial assistance and what a client can do with it. We want them to maintain their agency. We need the clients to be able to make choices about what's best for their own recovery. And so you'll see here, we don't really tell a client what they can provide, what they can spend their funds on, but we really want to help them think about how to leverage those funds for their recovery needs. And so while we leave it rather vague as to what they can use the funds for, we want to make sure that the client maintains their choice and their dignity. And we'll see a little bit about the client agency or the client choice as we talk about the different payment options. So more to come on that piece. But this is supplemental assistance. And again, when the client meets the eligibility criteria, when they're actively engaged in recovery planning with a caseworker, when those community and personal resources have been exhausted, we've got a tool and a mechanism to be able to provide financial assistance above and beyond immediate financial assistance. So then we move into the individual disaster care realm. So this is really helping clients address lost or damaged medication, durable medical equipment, if they need, if they need assistance obtaining access or functional needs, Sentry kits, things like that, or access and functional needs equipment or specialized devices. We can leverage the IDC funds for the clients. And so we've got an opportunity here between disaster health services and disaster mental health to provide up to $500 per client to help meet some of those needs. And again, we still want to see the client actively engaged with a disaster health services responder, disaster mental health services responder. Really want them to be part of the conversation and help that responder work with pharmacies and doctors' offices and other types of DME providers, whatever it is, to be able to provide the right amount of assistance to meet the needs that they've addressed. And again, there you can see the rationale behind it, right? It's the and I'll just read it. It provides a financial bridge until more sustainable support can be identified through local community resources. And those disaster health services and disaster mental health folks, they are really, really good at being able to connect clients with some of those resources above and beyond just giving them financial assistance. And so, I think one of the resonating themes around financial assistance is that it's a tool in the recovery journey and not the end all be all for a client. So that's a little bit about health and mental health, up to $500 between the two per client for health and mental health. Then we have disaster spiritual care, a $50 offering per client as well, to where if a client needs a little bit of assistance with replacing some lost or damaged spiritual items, if they feel like they need a little bit of assistance with that, we can provide a little extra financial assistance for that. So in each one of these cases, when we do the intake with a client and really ask them, would you like to speak to somebody about your lost medication? Or do you think you need to talk to somebody about how you're feeling after a disaster? Or, if we feel like, if we ask a question where the client feels like they need to talk to some sort of a spiritual counselor or somebody in the clergy, things like that, it really is more about just asking that question, but it's really asking more about, what did you lose? What are you looking for? What do you need? And then the intake worker and the caseworker really thinking about how to connect the client with that resource. But that's the overview of the financial assistance type for IDC. Again, up to $500 between health and mental health, and then $50 for spiritual care per client, and doesn't require damage assessment. So if a client presents with these needs, we don't have to necessarily have a destroyed, major, or uninhabitable damage classification for that financial assistance type. Then we have fatality-related assistance. So anytime we experience a fatality that is disaster-related, we have an opportunity to provide $1,000 per decedent on a case. And so this is to help offset some of those costs for families who have lost a loved one, helping them cope with the emotional trauma of the event, things like that. And then you can see there the eligibility criteria for that. It is available for all single and multifamily fire event types. So if we have a single multifamily fire and there's a fatality, then that assistance is automatically approved, authorized, you're ready to go. If we have an event type that's not a single or multifamily fire, then recommend that request for fatality-related assistance just gets run up through the region to the division for a quick decision as to whether or not fatality-related assistance is appropriate. And in the overwhelming majority of events, it is. And so it's just a piece of authorization and approval, which happens very, very swiftly. But in the event that you encounter a transportation incident that you're not quite sure what to do with, or some sort of manufacturing plant explosion, or there's some deaths because of a commercial trucking accident. All we have to do is run that up through the division, get it up to the division for a quick authorization on fatality-related assistance. And again, that does not require damage assistance, but it does require that the death was related to the event, and that it was disaster caused, and the disaster health services, mental health services folks do a really good job working with local officials to help make that connection. But that's $1,000 per decedent on cases. Then we move into supplemental assistance for both RDO or RDO exceptions for both supplemental assistance and IDC assistance. So going back to the to supplemental assistance, in the event that a client has presented with a recovery roadblock, we've helped them out with immediate financial assistance, we've helped them out with supplemental assistance, but they still have this lingering, unique, complex need that they can't meet with their personal resources. And the caseworker's really done exhaustive due diligence to make sure that there's no community resources that can address the need. We do have the option to provide a little more assistance through the RDO exception. So with good documentation, with good rationale, with an understanding that there are no other community needs to meet resources to meet those needs, then the RDO or the designee has an opportunity to approve additional assistance up to $1,250 per case. And again, just really looking for due diligence with casework, good documentation, and an understanding that community resources have been exhausted for that particular need in order to provide that assistance. And again, these are not supposed to be routine. The RDO exception shouldn't be routine. They shouldn't be automatic. These should really be limited to address very specific, nuanced, lingering recovery needs. As we think about the premise of financial assistance, we would love nothing more than to be able to return clients to their pre-disaster state. But the reality is, we don't have the ability to do that. We don't have the budgets. We don't have the ability to make someone completely whole again after a disaster. So our financial assistance is designed to address some, disaster caused needs, to help offset some costs and things like that. So we know that these amounts are never going to be enough. And so, I just ask you to think about that as we move forward with financial assistance. Is think about it from that lens. We know that this financial assistance is only going to go so far, which kind of leads us to this point that the RDO exception isn't an automatic. It shouldn't be done, with an overwhelming majority of cases, that it really should be limited to those very unique circumstances to meet a very nuanced need that the client, they just can't overcome a recovery roadblock or hurdle. So that's a little bit about the RDO exception. Once per case on the RDO exception for supplemental assistance, much like supplemental assistance in whole, once per case. And then we have the IDC RDO exception or DRO director exception. And the reason we call out the DRO director exception is that we know that there'll be level 3s where there is an actual DRO for level 3, and that the DRO director, maybe the inherent RDO, maybe somebody else, has the ability to provide the exception for IDC. Same kind of circumstance for the IDC assistance, much for the RDO exception for IDC assistance, much like the RDO exception for supplemental assistance. It should be nuanced. It should be unique. Due diligence with the casework process and due diligence with exhausting community resources before we provide the assistance. But we do know that it is there to help meet some of those needs, and we know that our clients have very complex health and mental health needs. In some, pre-existing, some caused. You mix that together and it's even worse. And so we do have the ability to provide that, but just still looking for that same criteria around the RDO exception for IDC assistance. All right, so that provides a little bit of background on the different types of financial assistance types and why we use them and what to look for and what to think about. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie and talk about the different types of payment options. Once we've addressed all of the eligibility, once we know that the client has expressed a need, that they accept financial assistance, and we don't have personal or community resources to meet the needs, we go through that process, we issue financial assistance, and then Jamie's going to take us through how we provide that financial assistance.
Thank you, Leonard. And everyone, I'm going to stay off camera right now for some bandwidth and because there's a lot going on my computer. Also, if you hear the familiar dings from Red Cross SMS, that is just all the clients who are responding to me because I told them that their funds were coming. So apologies if there's dings. So first off, let's discuss what is an EFT. An EFT stands for electronic funds transfer. That's just meaning that the Red Cross is sending the client money some way electronically. In RC Care will suggest EFT or CAC based on the information entered in intake. If the client does not meet the EFT requirements, CAC will be the only option presented. So if you get to the end of intake and the client doesn't have an email and only has a landline, then you shouldn't get an EFT as an option because they can't actually receive the links to receive their payment. If they did have the internet, they had email, they had a smartphone, but EFT wasn't an option, there's not a system issue. It just means that that client cannot be served by our EFT vendor. If EFT is available, the system will display the EFT options that are currently available. So right now, we have 3 options: Zelle, PayPal, and Walmart, which I will get into a little bit later. We previously also had MasterCard Send. So previously the system would show that there were 4 options. Now there are only 3. RC Care will present some help text so that the responder can, if the client has questions, the responder can help guide them or help say like, oh, well, this is what Walmart means. This is what PayPal means, etc. Once the client chooses their EFT option, so like, they say, yep, that works for me. You say, good, you finish intake, they get the link. The client will get the link. They'll click on it either in their email or text. They'll choose their EFT option, and then they will have to confirm their identity with some knowledge-based authentication questions. And then they'll have access to their secure payment portal to select their payment method. All of that part happens outside of RC Care. It happens in our payment portal, our vendor's payment portal. So we do not in Red Cross, in RC Care, store or receive a client's bank information, detailed information about their PayPal. We do not see or receive their Walmart confirmation numbers so that their payments are secure. They are the only ones who get that information. They're the only ones who have access to it. That helps protect the client from the information getting, hacked into from our system, and also just makes it so that they're the only ones who can get their funds. It does sometimes hinder our responders' ability to help a client because we can't see those things, but it really needs to be there to protect the client. All EFT options, even Walmart, require that the client can receive a text or email and access the internet. So having a flip phone is not enough. They must have access to the internet. Okay, Leonard, next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit more about how EFTs work. And there's those dings. The client will receive an email and 2 text messages with their EFT link. The email will come from noreply@disasterverification.com. The email will include the English version of the message at the top and the Spanish version of the message at the bottom. The text messages will come from different phone numbers. One message will be in English and the other in Spanish. We do not know which numbers they will come from. They come from rolling numbers because that helps prevent, in case someone gets a message, they don't know what it is, they report that message as potential spam. If that happens enough, carriers will block that phone number. That actually happened to us about 3 or 4 years ago. And that we didn't know that carriers had blocked that number, and our clients were not receiving their payment links via text. So in order to keep it so that we can ensure that our clients are always receiving those links, it must come from different numbers. After confirming their identities, as I said, via the KBAs, the client will see the list of payment options available to them. It will be what is available at that time, and it should correspond with what was shown in our CCARE. When they click the option, they'll receive information about how it works. So if they have additional questions about like, well, what do I need to take to Walmart? If as a responder, you don't remember, the client will see that when they click the link. These slides are a little bit old, but we had recently done some updates to our screens. They're more accessible, they're easier to use, and we followed a plain language standard. So we did drop the reading level and use some more trauma-informed language. We also set it up so that those payment links, the pages that they click on, are easier to translate, as opposed to just using Google Translate, which is what they were using before. Thank you, Leonard. So benefits of EFT for our clients. Some vendors will not accept a debit card without the client's name on it. So, clients have a CAC, it's real, they can hand it to a vendor, but the vendor will look at it and, will say, hey, you tell me you're Leonard Levy, but this card doesn't have your name on it, so I cannot accept it. Our EFTs can be used with most prepaid debit cards. Clients don't have to disclose that they're Red Cross, have to, kind of wave around whenever they go to buy something that they are, using the assistance that somebody provided to them. What Leonard spoke on earlier about really empowering our clients and giving them choice and honoring how they want to recover. Some clients do not want it known, that they have received assistance and that's how they're paying for something. It saves the client ATM fees, and it's also less risky / easier for us to monitor suspicious activity. So I'm going to go over the EFT options now. The first one we're going to go over is Zelle. So here's, if you're you are sitting in front of a client and they're like, hey, I see you have these 3 options. I don't know which one is good for me. This is some information that is helpful for you to have that conversation with the client. Zelle is a great option for a client who has a bank account and their bank is enrolled in the Zelle network. The client is comfortable using a mobile banking app. So, if they regularly pay their bills or check their balance on their app on their phone, I have a Chase Bank. If you've got the Chase app, you have a US Bank app. If that is something that the client regularly does, then Zelle's a great option for them. It's also great if the client has an immediate need. They're going to walk away from the scene, from you opening their case, and go right to spending money, because that money can go directly straight to their bank account. So if a client has already enrolled in Zelle, so it's also great, if they've been using Zelle, they've used it before, they'll just need to enter their Zelle token, which is their contact information that is connected to their Zelle account, in their payment portal. That's all they have to enter. They don't have to enter their bank name. They don't have to enter their bank number, a debit card. It is literally just, jamie.snowden@redcross.org or my phone number. And so clients can feel a little bit comforted in that, is that they're not really sharing information that they might view as more sensitive. Next slide. Zelle is not a good option if the client banks at a bank or a credit union that is not enrolled in the Zelle network. I will say that I think every day, every year, more and more banks enroll in it. But if someone uses a small local credit union, they might not be enrolled in Zelle. having them choose Zelle, it's going to delay things. Not the best route for them. Additionally, banks are better for Zelle. Credit unions can take longer for the funds to be received. Doesn't mean they will. It's not automatic that it's going to take longer, but it can. And so again, if your client has an immediate need, they don't have a place to stay tonight, they need those funds to go to a hotel, and they have a credit union, and they're not even sure if the credit union's in the Zelle network, Zelle's not a good option for them. Let's not recommend Zelle. Tell them that we don't think Zelle would be a good option for them, because then they're going to pick it. They're going to go to the hotel. They're not going to have money, and it's going to take us some time to work through that. If the client is not comfortable using a mobile banking app, they have no idea what you're talking about. If you mention it to them, they do not check their balance on it. They don't pay a bill. They don't transfer money between accounts. Zelle is not for them. Zelle is also not for a client if they have an issue with their bank account. Say their bank account has a negative balance, it's frozen, perhaps maybe they have some garnishes or lien on it, and just in general, they're not able to withdraw money from it. If a client has negative funds in their balance, they have a negative $300 or $500, and we send them $350, they're not going to get that $350. We're just going to decrease their negative balance. That's not going to help them. Not in that immediate need. Next one, Leonard. Actually, you can stay on this slide, but before I get into PayPal, I did want to mention something about Zelle, where I think the most clients get stuck with Zelle is that in Zelle, you have to enter, like I said, your contact information that is tied to your Zelle account. It is either your phone or your email. It is not both. Zelle can only be attached to one. So if a client enters their email, because honestly, they might not know which one it is. I use Zelle. I didn't know. I had to look in my banking app. So I would recommend that we ask clients, do you know if it's tied to your phone or email? We've had clients who put in their email for their immediate assistance. Then they get a link for supplemental and they put in their phone. It cannot be tied to both. It can only be tied to one. And so Zelle reads that as two separate Zelle accounts. And so one of our most frequent questions about Zelle is, why didn't my client get their supplemental? They got IA. It went to Zelle. And it's because the client entered different information. So we really have to remind the clients that they've got to know what contact information their Zelle account is tied to. And they can find that out by looking in their banking app. We are working with Zelle on some additional talking points on that, but that really is the biggest sticking point with Zelle. Okay. PayPal. And I do apologize, I'm going a little bit quickly through this. We did do a specific payment option presentation a year ago, maybe more. Time flies. That's also in more detail. So I'm sure we can find the link to that if you have more questions or if I'm just going too quickly. Okay, so PayPal. PayPal is a good option if the client has an existing PayPal account or is comfortable working with PayPal to create one. We do want to call out that creating the account will take delays. If anyone has signed up for it, you register, then PayPal's you've got to connect your bank account to it. That takes some time. PayPal has to send you money. You have to verify it. So if the client is standing in front of you, it's cold out and they need a place to stay, if they don't have PayPal, PayPal's not for them. They do not have the time then to set it up. If they still want PayPal and they don't have that immediate need, they want to set it up, that's fine, but let them know that it could cause delays. Additionally, the client has to be comfortable working with PayPal to resolve any issues. I can see the Red Cross PayPal account. I can see if the funds were sent, who they were sent to. We can cancel inside that portal if we need to. But if the client has additional questions, they have to be able to call PayPal. That should be the first place they go. Hey, I don't see the funds in my account. I put in my PayPal email. They should call PayPal to see where it's at. And if they're not comfortable doing that, then PayPal is not a good option for them. The third one is they have to be comfortable, just like with Zelle using mobile banking app, they have to be comfortable using internet banking and have people that will take money from their PayPal. You know, maybe they pay bills, maybe they have someone who will do, you know, repairs on their house and they can send them money through PayPal and that's how they want to pay them. That would be great for them. But if they're looking to go to a hotel and the hotel does not take PayPal as a payment option, then that's not really going to help them in that minute, because that would mean they'd have to get the funds to their PayPal, withdraw the funds from their PayPal, and then spend the money. That causes delay. So it's a great option if they have someone who can accept PayPal as a payment option. If not, that doesn't mean they can't use it, but it does mean there might be delays. And last, PayPal is like a bank account. In order to have one, you do have to have entered a social security number or tax ID number. PayPal funds from the Red Cross are not taxed, but because it's like a bank, it requires this information. And that has surprised some of our clients before when they've clicked the link and PayPal has said, okay, but we need your tax information. It doesn't mean we're taxing them, but they do have to enter it. And if they are not comfortable doing that and giving that to PayPal, then this is not a good option for them. When PayPal is not the best option, I've covered this a little bit, but yeah, the client doesn't have a PayPal account or they're not comfortable trying to set one up. They have an immediate cash need, but they don't, the places that they need to spend money don't accept PayPal. Or if they've never sent funds or paid for things using PayPal, now it's not the time to start. They've had a rough day. This is not the time to try to add something new to their life. And while that sounds very obvious sometimes when I say it, we have had clients who've seen PayPal and gone, I hear that a lot. Now's the time I'm going to start using it. I've got a reason to use it. And this is not the time for that. Okay, Walmart Direct to Cash. Walmart Direct to Cash is a good option if the client doesn't have a bank account, a debit card, or any real relationship with a financial institution. It doesn't require you to have that. You just go into Walmart and get the cash. So you've got that immediate need. You do have to be able to go to a Walmart store that is open near the client's location and that the client can get to it. So if it's the middle of the night, there's no buses running, the client doesn't have a car, Walmart's probably not the best option because they have to find a way to get there. But if there's a Walmart nearby, they can get there. Walmart's great. All that's required is that the client receive and bring their reference code to the Walmart store to receive their payment. We'll go over some additional identification and information requirements, but that's really it. They don't have to understand the internet banking, any of that. Next. Okay. Some important things about Walmart Direct to Cash is that the funds must be picked up by the primary client. The primary client will need to provide their name and date of birth. Walmart may require the client to show ID. Walmart has a policy of funds above $1,000, they must show an ID. But Walmart also allows their stores to make their own rules to be stricter. So the store in your area might have a rule that $500 or more must show ID. Additionally, perhaps the worker who's working the direct to cash customer service station doesn't know you don't need ID. So they may request it. All that they're going to check it and make sure that the name provided and the date of birth match what is in RC Care. So a client cannot, drive up and send their sister in, their child in to run and get it, their spouse, someone else on the case. Nope, it must be the primary client. Additionally, and this is probably when we did these last slides, is starting last April, there was a change that Walmart initiated that stores in California and Texas will require the ID regardless of the amount. So all of those stores, the client must show ID and they must enter their social security number or tax ID number into Walmart's PIN pad. They do not need to read it aloud. They do not need it. That information is not transferred back to RC Care. We do not see their social security number or tax ID number. We don't see if they refuse to enter it. We do not get that information back. That is something that Walmart is required to have. And so in last April, they started those. Our Walmart screens, payment screens were updated. So that is clearly stated to the client so that they know that they're not going to get to Walmart and be surprised by that. Okay. Walmart's not the best option. No Walmart near you. Don't have them pick Walmart if there's no Walmart that they can get to. They can't get to the Walmart's closed. The client doesn't have ID, probably not the best. Let's not send them there. Like if it's for, one person IA, $350, as Leonard explained. Walmart shouldn't make them show ID unless they're in California or Texas, but they might. So even if the client doesn't have it and we don't think they'll need it, it still might not be the best option for them because we could be setting them up for a not great experience. And then also if they're in California or Texas, if the client is not comfortable entering their social security number or tax ID number into Walmart's PIN pad debit card reader, then they shouldn't do it. They should not go. And then, like I said, Walmart stores require the ID for funds above $1,000, but a store can have a different policy. One thing that is important to note about Walmart is that if the client tries to pick up the funds and it fails, say there's a typo in RC Care with the date of birth, the funds are on hold for 30 minutes. For those 30 minutes, we cannot cancel the funds. They cannot try again. It's a Walmart direct to cash hold. It is not an RC Care hold. Walmart does that to prevent duplicate payments. Next. And I think the next couple of slides are just some Walmart helpful information. This is a screenshot from the Walmart direct to cash tool that is on OneSource. So I'm not going to read everything on it. You can find it by going to OneSource and searching Walmart. The search actually works for that. But it does go over, what happens if the client did not get their funds at Walmart. The first question you ask is, was a declined receipt provided to the client? And then it gives you what may have caused the problem and what you can do to help them. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so Walmart helpful information. If a Walmart store denies a client and you've confirmed this, confirmed that the primary client's the one going in. Most often the issue is that someone else went in. Make sure that the client's data is accurate in RC Care. The second most common issue we have with Walmart is that there's a slight typo in their date of birth. And so when they go into Walmart, they can't get the funds. I fixed 2 of those yesterday. So if there is a data issue in RC Care, put in that contact change request. If it's a slight typo that is obviously just a fat thumb issue during intake, call your case administrator, your RDO, have them make that immediate change. The client can get their funds. If you've confirmed that the data is accurate, the primary client was going in, email clientcare@redcross.org with the following information: the Walmart store number, the Walmart address, the case number, the amount was denied, and the summary of what happened. We have a very good relationship with our Walmart reps. They personally call each store that we've reported issues with and work on retraining. And if we see a pattern across a certain locality or across the country, we work on retraining. Again, the Walmart direct to cash information on OneSource. We also encourage local regions to work directly with Walmart stores. If you are hearing that your clients have a specific problem with one Walmart, please still escalate that to us. We want to fight it sort of from the top down. But the other best thing to do is have regional leadership call, the Walmart store, speak with the manager, meet with them, share information about our programs so that they understand what's going to happen. Especially if there's a big disaster, you had a large apartment fire and some more people are going to be coming in. It's a great way to just help ensure that your clients are going to have a good experience at that Walmart. Okay, so the next screens are some EFT screen examples. Before I get into them too much, I do want to say that you can do this and see them yourself. You can't see the client's screens, but if you have access to the training sandbox, create a case with your contact information in the training sandbox, you will see the EFT screens. So if you ever want to, we do have some screen examples in knowledge articles, but if you ever really want to see them yourself, you want to know what it looks like, you can do it using the sandbox. So this is what it looks like when the client gets their email it will, it comes like this, comes from that no reply email, and they click confirm their identity. I had to put this in 2 different screenshots. It was too long to put on one on the slide, but the screenshot on the left is the English version. The screenshot on the right is the Spanish, and the English is just on top of the Spanish when they get it. This is if they click that confirm their identity box and they confirm their identity using the KBA questions. This is what it looks like when they pick a payment option. Now, you all are probably looking at this and going, Jamie, you talked about Walmart, PayPal, and Zelle, but we don't have receive money on my bank debit card anymore because MC Send stopped making the product that allowed us to send money that way. So we had to stop using it. These screenshots are old, but I didn't retake them because we are so close to having a replacement for MC Send. And so I wanted to just share right now on this call that when we get that replacement in, and we are so close, it will look exactly like it used to with MC Send. We're not changing the wording. It's not going to change, it's not going to change the experience. And so I left this screenshot in there because I did want to show that it will again in the very near future say receive money on my bank debit card, and that will be for our new version of the previous MC Send. And when that's ready, we will have an office hours. We'll tell you all about it. Not ready yet, but I did just want to leave it on this screen. Next one. So this is what those previous examples were what it looks like on your email on a desktop. This is what it would look like on your mobile device. That is an example of the text message you receive, and then you click on it. And again, it has the payment links. Once your identity is confirmed, it has the payment options listed. They're branded, so they look a little more familiar to people. And they just click the receive money, pick up cash at Walmart, receive money through PayPal, and it takes them to the next step where they can confirm that information. So this screen is one I wanted to share because we have been having some instances at Walmart where people have been providing the wrong confirmation number. We are working to update these next screens with our EFT vendor to help clarify some of that confusion. But so if I'm a client and I picked Walmart, I confirmed, yep, this is my my email, this is my phone number. I read all the things, all the instructions of what I'd need to bring with me, what kind of ID. There's a link to where Walmart stores are. And I say, yes, this is the screen that pops up. I wanted to share it because we do get asked a lot. The first thing it says is what happens next. In the next few minutes, you will get a text message or email with your reference number. That is the important number that clients must take with them when they go to Walmart. That is, we don't use a barcode right now. We would love to, we don't. It is a alphanumeric number that they must take with them. You can see it also, goes into what they need to bring with them. And then we mentioned the Texas and California thing about needing to type in their social security number. And then this is the bottom half of that screen. And I wanted to show it because, it does list out the photo identification that is the types of photo identification that Walmart will accept if they need to present an ID. It tells them, what to do when they go inside Walmart. There's the link to where Walmart stores are located. And then there's this nice deposit summary. This confirmation number on the screen, it says WM262346 is confusing some of our clients. Some of our clients are reading that as their confirmation, their reference number they should take with them. It says at the top of the email that they will receive it separately, but some of them review this and go into Walmart and say, my number is WM262346. And then Walmart says that's not a right number and they don't get further. So if your client says, oh, I gave them the WM number, not right. We're going to get rid of that. That will be gone hopefully in March to stop some of the confusion. Next. So this is what it looks like when you get the Walmart reference number. This is an example of the email. And again, this is from a test environment. So you could get this exact email in our sandbox. It says Walmart Direct to Cash is ready for me to go pick it up at Walmart. And here's my number. My number is in bold. It goes over the next steps, tells me what I should do when I get in Walmart. I have to show the cashier, my ID if I'm asked, and then I give them my number and it gives me the number again. To make sure, it tries to be as clear as possible that is your reference number, not that WM number. But so just wanted to show these two screen examples because that has been a recent issue that people have requested some clarity on for Walmart. I think that is the last of my screens. Oh no, CACs. Okay, sorry, looking at the time, trying to go, guys. Sorry, there's just a lot of information. Okay, CACs are always available as a payment option. Provide a CAC to a client if they choose a CAC or if EFT is not a good option for them, or if that's the only option presented in RC Care. RC Care does allow responders to register the card without loading it. So you can add it at the end of intake, you can issue and not load. And then once if you're going to hand deliver, someone's driving the card over later, you're going to have to mail it. Do that. The RC Care card, the CAC card must be entered in RC Care before it's given to a client. You can issue and load it and not load it if you need to mail it. Or you can issue and load it and then suspend it. Field Card Services supports regions with CAC issues, and the Client Care Center can provide additional resolution for loading CACs after hours, or when the clients receive them if you mail them. We do get some questions about what PFraud means. It literally just means potential fraud. We cannot remove PFraud from a CAC. If you see that a CAC has a PFraud status, the client must call the bank and work through that with them. Some potential triggers for PFraud doesn't necessarily mean that the client did anything wrong. It just means that maybe they made too many transactions in a short period of time. They exceeded the number of ATM transactions for a day. They forgot their PIN and tried their PIN a couple of times. So all they have to do is just call the bank and confirm their contact information, their name and stuff, and then the most recent transactions on their CAC card. Okay, some tips, and we've gone over this in the chat a little bit. A CAC can be loaded a maximum of 4 times. Caseworkers can see the balance of a card in RC Care, as well as the status to provide troubleshooting. The balance of a CAC will not update after the card has passed its logical expiration date until about a month and a half after the CAC's expired. Red Cross takes all the money back, and then it should go back to 0. Cash transfers are no longer allowed on CAC, so Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, not allowed. Sorry, I want to make sure we cover what's needed, but also leave some room for questions and answers. Every night, all CACs in RC Care are synced with the bank. We do this so that we can have an accurate reflection of the status of the CAC and the funds left on them. Clients will receive a message via their preferred contact method 30 and 15 days before their CAC expires with their most recent CAC balance and the expiration date. So, some clients leave only a couple of cents on their CAC, and we tell them, hey, your CAC is a balance of 12 cents. We do it for any CAC with any balance because that is the client's money, and they get the right to spend it even if it is 12 cents. Okay, I think that is it for me. I'm going to take a breath and some water, and I'll be back for questions.
Thanks, Jamie. I can, Leonard, if you want me to, I can run through these real quick. In fact, we probably are just going to buzz right through them so we can get to Q&A. We have done this presentation a couple of times around knowledge articles. So this is just letting you know that we have a plethora of knowledge articles within RC Care that really walks you through using RC Care and answers questions to a lot of common questions, etc. So if we go forward, we will see the knowledge articles that are related to payments These are the numbers and you can search them. And what I'm happy to do is share the knowledge article office hours that we have in the chat so that, or the Q&A, so that folks have that link. And then the next slide also has a list of all of financial assistance topics in RC Care that refer to financial assistance. So you can click on these when you get the presentation and it'll show you the article. I believe, if I'm remembering all of our stuff correctly, we go right into user support, which if you've joined us for any other office hour, you have seen this next chart. I am not going to go through it other than let you know that your supervisor is your best friend, your best resource, your buddy next door that you should go to first. With any questions, they are your first line for user support and they can point you in a direction if they don't know the answer. We've got we've already talked about knowledge-based articles, our email, client care help, clientcare@redcross.org, and then also report help, which is another great resource related to reports. You'll get a copy of this with the slides that are shared out. I want to make sure we get to Q&A. So the next slide is exactly that. We've finally have made it. We've got about 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and run through as many questions as we can. For those of you who are not seeing the Q&A up in the top part of your Teams, here is that Menti code, the QR code and the number. You go to Menti, MENTI.com and enter 3201-4146. Or you can scan this lovely QR code and it will bring you right to that presentation and you can enter your question. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. Jamie, Chris, Ariane, I don't know if you want to run through these yourself since you have been looking at them, or I am happy to run down as best I can.
I have not been able to read any of them while I was
you've been
talking.
doing a fabulous job presenting. And I know Chris and Ariane and others have been answering some right and publishing those. So that's fantastic. I will try and run through going back to the beginning. If the cold weather pilot is successful, will it be replicated for extreme heat? I think that is a great question. I don't know if Leonard, you have heard anything related to that.
Yeah, no decisions yet. I think we're just monitoring this pilot, see how we do, and then think about how do we replicate it for cold weather. But yeah, I mean, senior leadership may consider extreme heat as well in the future. So stay tuned and help us make this a successful pilot.
Let's see. I think we already did this. Is there an update for when we will have the MasterCard send type? Jamie, you did that. Thank you. I see. Can you?
So soon, guys. Really trying.
I see. Can you share the slide deck? I know I mentioned in the last couple of slides that we will be sharing this in an email. We usually send out a thank you email for joining with the recording and the presentation. What I think that one was answered. Let's see, most banks, sorry guys, I am going to read right away. So if it is just a statement, we'll run with it. Most banks are enrolled in Zelle, but the client doesn't know it. I help them look into their bank app and see if their bank has it. That's, thank you, Angelia. That's a great way to do that. I do see a number of folks using your hands. We don't have the microphones enabled. So if you do have a question, please use your Q&A or the menti.com. Nat from San Diego, hoping for an update on the new EFT option to replace MasterCard. We offered that. Awesome. Hope you got that, Nat. Is there a contact number to reach PayPal provided to the client?
I do believe so. I will check, but also you can check in the sandbox. I'm just going to keep saying that because I know we get a lot of people who ask us for those payment screens and you can't see them yourself. But I will check and see if we can find that out. But I believe so, just like with Walmart, with the screens you saw, it links to Walmart. So I do believe it provides the PayPal number. It's not in front of me, so I can't speak 100% to that.
Thanks, Jamie. Let's see, I need to hit refresh apparently. What is the best practice to assist our clients when we provide them a CAC, but when they get to a hotel, the hotel is required to see, they're requiring an ID, such as a license. However, their home was destroyed and they have no ID. They're seeing that often. Any suggestions?
You mean to take this one?
Please.
Yes.
Okay, cool. This is actually one place where, folks in the local areas and the regional areas can do some incredible work. Just like we encourage folks to go work with the local Walmart stores, ask your regional leadership to go work with those local Walmart stores. Same thing with your local hotels. You can have your regional leadership ask them to talk with local hotel managers and explain what we do, what our clients have been, what our clients go through, and what our programs are all about, and start forging some of those relationships. And we have found that to be really, really helpful. So that would be, in terms of a best practice, something I would really, really encourage.
Thanks, Chris. I am going to check Menti. It looks like we've got a couple of questions in here, and I'm trying to run a few screens, so hopefully my voice still comes across. When there are multiple members to submit funds to a CAC, can you go over how to send them in one transaction? I'm assuming by multiple members, I'm, multiple services to submit. I think we've done that for IDC, right?
To my knowledge, we don't have a way to do that at this time. Jamie, keep me honest.
Sorry, I was looking at the PayPal stuff. The question is, and now that my children were quiet when I was talking and now they're going crazy. So like if we have a client, if we have one case and there's multiple IDC services for multiple clients.
Yeah, for EFT. So
Okay,
like
for EFT, no,
yeah.
at this time, there is not. There is a long-term RC Care project that we are working on that ability, because also besides the fact that like it's harder for us to track, it's harder for the client who wants, 6 EFT links, but that is a long-term payment project for us, but not at this time. And I do have the answer to the PayPal thing. Before I even confirm my PayPal email address, it says, if you have problems linking your bank account to PayPal, reach out to them first at the PayPal number. And then after I confirm it, it provides me the number again.
Thanks, Jamie. Looks like somebody left a comment here in Menti. Are any of you available to be a guest speaker for a short presentation in the territory DAP responders? Please go ahead and send your name and information to clientcare@redcross.org. I can't see who sent that on Menti, so I just want to make sure that we have that recorded, same thing, written down, and we can get you the best information. Does financial assistance exist for emergency pet care? Direct answer, no, it does not. But I'm sure that somebody could provide, is there anything additional to that question that anybody wants to add?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. So yes, correct. There's not a financial assistance for pets, household animals line item. There are a couple of nuances to that. One, remember, we want to give clients agency and dignity. And so there's nothing saying that they couldn't take one of their traditional financial assistance elements that they get and apply it. But there isn't specific financial assistance for pets at this time. And just keep in mind that oh my gosh, service animals, we can address service animal needs through the IDC assistance. So I think that's what I would add this afternoon, because I couldn't remember service animals, Allison.
I understand, Leonard. End of day, we get it. Appreciate it. Will the cold weather IA approval be added to existing IA or as an additional line item?
It is a
Confirm that.
separate immediate assistance commitment. So if you look at your immediate assistance service, depending on your access, you will see one commitment for $350 and one commitment for $100, as an example. So their immediate assistance, and it's given at two separate times because two separate people are giving it. So in total, it will look like 450, but it will be in either two separate CAC loads or two separate EFT links.
Thanks, Jamie. Can someone please, regarding the cold money, it did not affect any of the current cases. What was the start date? Ron Miller is asking. I believe it was January 23rd. It's last Friday. Gosh, that's
Yes.
almost been a week.
Yes, cases created after midnight on the morning of the 23rd were eligible, and we started payments on Monday.
I actually have, let's see, run out of questions to our panel. Were there any questions that you answered and published that you want to address on the microphone?
I have one, well, okay, it's not one that was asked, but it's one I want to make sure we talk about in context of financial assistance. And that is that we have seen quite a few folks leave CACs with clients without that CAC being activated and attached to the case. Please, 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 never, ever, ever do that. A number of things can happen. The client may call the bank and try to activate it themselves, and then we can't load it, which then you have to go get them a whole new CAC, and that's a problem. The other thing that can happen is that even though that CAC isn't loaded yet, what can happen is that that debit card number can actually still be used to commit fraud. And we don't want to be leaving debit card numbers lying around for the purposes of fraud. And I know nobody does it with that intention, but please don't do that. So that's a really, really big deal that we are going to be monitoring for. It's also really bad if the client winds up not qualifying for financial assistance and then you gave them a debit card, and that's a really, really bad day for a client. And nobody wants to give a client a really bad day. So that's the one I have.
Thanks, Chris. I did see a question in Menti. Do all Walmarts provide direct to cash?
My understanding is yes. But if the client uses Walmart, they get the link to the nearest Walmarts to them. They can always call ahead, or you can help call ahead. Or you can also, start asking around, if you're a DAT who works in a certain area, or you cover a certain county, you could start calling and asking to see if they do. But it should be all.
For Zelle, is an email always needed?
So there has been some conversation in the comments about Zelle. There are some people who are saying that they have both an email and a phone with Zelle. I believe that that's a bank thing because I mean, we have a meeting with Zelle, with our Bank of America Zelle rep every other Tuesday. Had one this week and had a long conversation about this whole email phone thing. And so Zelle refers to that as their token. You need a token to get, to basically claim your Zelle account. Actually, before this meeting, I logged into my own banking app and pulled up my Zelle, and I can see, oh, Allison Weibel, allison.weibel@redcross.org. Leonard Levy, 555-555-1234. And it tells me in my Zelle app, which, if the people who I'm connected to, which form of contact they are using for their token. I can make words. But so if they don't need an email, they must have it connected to them somehow. an email, or a phone. It has to be one. Zelle has told us it is only one. Now, the client could switch it all the time, right? Like in the instance where the client put their phone number first, and then on their for supplemental, they put their email, and Zelle's like, that's not connected to account. They could go into their account and say, actually, I want to switch it to my email and get their funds. I've never switched my token for Zelle, so I don't know how easy it is. To me, that seems like an unnecessary extra step to put on our clients when we could just cancel it and send them the link again and they could enter their phone number. So long question or long answer, doesn't have to be an email, must be some form of contact. And while it does appear that there are some people who have it connected to both, the official word from Zelle is it is only one, and knowing which one it is important.
Thanks, Jamie. There was a question, and I know there was some other chatter around it. Has there been any consideration to providing more than 4 loads on a CAC? I want to make sure that's addressed on the recording as well.
I will say not at this time. That is what I put in the chat. There has not been at this time. Chris, I'm not sure if you have any other on it, but to my knowledge, it has not been something that we've discussed.
No.
And I haven't even looked. On cases where there's a lot of people, on cases where there's a lot of different health, IDC needs, it is a inconvenience. Definitely. That is not the majority of our cases.
No.
And I don't have the numbers in front of me now.
No, and I believe it's bank controlled, not controlled by us.
Yeah, so if we wanted to change it, we would have to meet with the bank who owns our CAT cards and work out a different deal with them and get them to agree to change their standards. So it would need to be a desperate need for us to really kind of go through those conversations.
All right, folks. Thanks, Jamie and Chris, for that question. I know that we had a short time for question and answer today. So if you still have some questions, please feel free to reach out to us at clientcare@redcross.org. We will be happy to answer those questions. And that email inbox is monitored 5 days a week, business hours, and usually hold that for program questions. So some of these questions are great for that space. Please don't send anything urgent to that inbox. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today for this financial assistance part 2. And we will be sending out the recording and the slides shortly after this session. Takes us a little bit to do some tweaking, and we will get that out to you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay warm or cool, depending on where you are. And we will see you next month for our next session. Toodles, everybody.